Good morning and welcome to Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition on 92.9 KVRE, online at kvre.com and on iHeartRadio. I'm Mark Oliver. Welcome back, Mr. Tracy Simpson, back in the studio this week. Tracy, how was vacation with the family?
Well, Mark, first of all, I want to thank you for filling in. You did an unbelievable job. Appreciate you so much. Of course, I never had a doubt in my mind. You could talk 3 hours about a thimble. So, as it is, great job there. Yes, a great time with the family, no doubt about that. Still did not think, just on vacation I'd be enjoying sports, but sure enough, sand volleyball, there is such a thing, and it's not for me, okay? So we'll leave the sand volleyball to the younger crowd, but I did get a few spikes in because I went over to the kids' volleyball net. But other than that, a great time. Appreciate you so much for filling in. Once again, did a great job. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, ankles aren't what they used to be, huh?
No, don't even. My hops are not. I don't hop anymore. I just tiptoe.
My understanding that you were participating in another sport this week as well, deep sea fishing.
Well, yeah, I guess that is a sport of kinds. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. And was rather had a good time with that. We did catch quite a few. You saw the pictures. We're not going to post them, but we had a good time out there. The sea was vicious that day, and we had a fun. But bringing in a big haul, yes, we did. The boys had a good time, and we will have a very good fish fries at one point. Better have a big tub, though, huh?
Well, of course, happy 4th of July. I guess happy belated 4th of July to all of our listeners out there. Happy Independence Day weekend to you. Of course, the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, always a big draw every year, especially this year with the return of Joey Chestnut. 2024 just did not feel right. Kind of felt like some of those COVID years where just nothing feels right out there. Joey Chestnut's back. All is right in the world again, I guess. It's a start. It's a start. But Tracy, nevertheless, it's July when you look at the calendar, and the Major League All-Star break is right around the corner. Mm-hmm. Now, it's been a few weeks since we've checked in with the MLB, so let's take a look at some of the biggest storylines dominating the league right now and where we might be heading in the next few months. So for all of our listeners out there, if you picked the mighty Los Angeles Dodgers to be the first team to win 50 games this season, you were not alone, but you were also wrong. Mm-hmm. If you picked the Detroit Tigers, congratulations. Now, I'm not sure that I actually believe you, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt anyway. Detroit Tigers won their 50th game Tuesday, one full day before the Dodgers did, and how they got there is really a big thanks to big contributions all season long from ace Tariq Skubal, most notably known as probably the best pitcher in the MLB, and the red-hot Riley Green, and the resurgent Javier Baez, among many others. But are the Tigers as good as they've played so far? And are they even the American League's best team? When it comes down to brass tacks, can they beat the Dodgers or whichever team comes out of a stacked National League in the World Series? Tracy, I know you've been taking a look at the standings. Who stands out to you as we turn the page to July?
Well, I think you're right, Mark. They've already fairly well wrapped up the Central Division. I don't think that anybody over there is got a chance to come up, not even in the any other brackets whatsoever. But I'm looking, and we talked about this team at the very beginning, and we did because they're still the Bronx Bombers. And if anybody can do it, the Yankees are prevailing. I know Tampa Bay's giving them a run for their money, but in the East, I think they're still the beast. Now, my team, nowhere to be seen, of course. They're at the bottom of the barrel. Orioles, I don't know what happened, but sure enough, and Fenway, the old Fenway is looking, Green Monster's not a problem with anybody. But I think the Yankees are still hanging in there. Can they get back to the World Series and sort of make a better impact than they did last time they were there? Because Dodgers took care of them. But I think that, but I'll be honest with you, Mark. You talked about Detroit at the beginning of the season. You already said them. Just like you did with other teams around the area. And I'll tell you what, it's a toss-up right now. I think Detroit still could be one of the best teams and maybe go to the World Series.
Look, the record is no fluke. We've proven that already. Detroit may have been considered the dark horse candidate last year, and they nearly got to the World Series on the American League stage. So, yeah, as long as they're in the fight and you look at the AL Central standings, nobody is going to come and take that throne away from them in terms of the division pennant. So, Detroit is going to be a factor in the postseason. Another team that is going to be a factor in the postseason is the one that you just mentioned, the New York Yankees. They have the American League's best roster. They remain the favorites in the circuit, even with the Blue Jays closing in, the Rays are closing in, and down in the AL West, the Houston Astros are also kind of closing in on the race, as much as I hate to admit it. This feels like a season by which, by the time we get to October, I don't know that there's a clear-cut front runner in the American League. Like we said, New York's doing very, very well. And also, this pains me to say it, but I believe that there is a 7-year-old New York Yankees fan in my house right now. Somebody call the police.
Yeah.
But New York, you expect him to be there with Aaron Judge and the way that this lineup, 1 through 9 in the batting order, anybody can contribute. Dangerous hitting for the Bronx Bombers. New York is back. You can make the argument maybe that they never went away, but it's championship or bust in Yankee land and nothing else. But when you take a look at the National League, things appear to be a little less wide open. The Los Angeles Dodgers are the team to beat, full stop. They're getting healthier. Shohei Ohtani is back on the mound, and he's still hitting more home runs than anyone in the National League. In many ways, the uneven, maybe even rocky start to the season, which caused so many injuries to their pitching core, I think represents the basement or the lower tier of the possible range of outcomes for the Dodgers. Look, where they stand right now, they're still right there at the top of the majors. Will Smith is having one of the quietest 300 hitting seasons in memory. Freddie Freeman is doing Freddie Freeman things. Andy Pages is playing all-star caliber baseball. Even Max Muncy is tearing the ball off right now for the Dodgers. Look, pitching's been a problem at the beginning of this year, but they've got the depth. They've got enough farm system minor league depth to use in trades. Of course, the MLB draft is also right around the corner. And guess what? All the teams that are going to be selling at the deadline, the Dodgers, they don't care about the luxury tax. They don't care about anything. They're going to be buying. It's very hard to pick against the Dodgers in any sort of competitive context in 2025. This could be a big repeat for LA here. I know that at the beginning of the season, we talked about our World Series predictions. I believe we both had the Dodgers representing the National League. Yep. No surprise there. But my American League pick of the Boston Red Sox, smelling probably like some of those fish on the boat you had last week.
Well, you're ahead of me. I had the Orioles, so you're on top of me at least. So we're stinking in both divisions, Mark, on that one. But you know what? It was the Wild Wild West there for a little while. But then you're right. The Dodgers moving on out. And I think not only with him being healthy again, but I think this is a mental for the whole team, for the Dodgers, for him to be back.
Oh, absolutely.
This is and you get the vibe from the stands, even though, he's just coming back slowly. They're just, introduced him back into it. A few, innings here, a few innings there. But, hey, once he gets back full strength, see exactly what that Tommy Johns did for him. Obviously, his batting, he just got through dinging his 30th, once again for 5 years in a row. That's not a problem. But I think this is a mental suspect, too, that we got to look at also, from all the way from the front office down to the bat boy. You know what I mean? I think that means so much for him in both areas, the way he was when he came into the league. I think that just suits him. And he likes being on the mound, too. You can tell. He's just that kind of player.
So bouncing back to the American League, we've talked about the Tigers. We've talked about the Yankees. But if you've looked at the standings, there's some other teams there that are in the mix as well. Some of the teams to watch out for.
One of your favorites.
In the American League.
One of your favorites.
Well, not my favorite. Absolutely not my favorite. But the good thing about the Chicago White Sox, the good thing about the Chicago White Sox is that the Colorado Rockies exist as a baseball team. Because, yes, the White Sox are absolutely garbage. But nobody's talking about it. Because somehow, some way, the Colorado Rockies are worse, and that takes some of the discussion off, takes some of the pressure off. I don't know if the White Sox are ever going to be competitive again, maybe, and it also makes it a little bit worse in the Windy City because the Chicago Cubs are playing lights-out baseball right now. More on them in a minute. But in the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays finished last in the AL East in 2024, and they have rebounded to a 47-38 record. They are just one game behind the Yankees, holding a wild card spot. And a lot of that is to the major commitment that the Blue Jays had in signing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to a long-term extension. Also, in the offseason, they added huge names like Max Scherzer, Andre Jimenez, and Jeff Hoffman. And these moves reflect a win-now mentality, especially with an aging and expensive core. Now, although their farm system is pretty much non-existent, the Jays do have the number 8 pick in the upcoming MLB draft and are eyeing high upside talent to replenish the pipeline. 1.5 games out of first place in the AL East. Did you see the Blue Jays being in the mix?
I don't think anybody did, but you're right with those new hires that they got in. I think they're just now starting to really get into rhythm with each other, so to speak. I mean, obviously, these guys aren't rookies. They're veterans that know how to play the game, but you still have to mesh. And when I say mesh, that means everybody on the offense and defense on the mound, so to speak, and get in relationships. You know, when you get to a new city altogether, it's not just you moving yourself, you're moving your family and everybody, and you've got to settle in. And it takes a little bit of time. If you've ever been in an atmosphere where you were a coach or in construction, it's just that simple. When you get to the new job, you got to settle in. And I think that's what's happening right now. I think they're settling in. I think you're going to see a big move after the All-Star break, just like you said, with maybe some new acquisitions, and then also just getting a little bit more settled in. I didn't have the Jays by no means, and even with the power of Scherzer and the rest of them, I didn't see it coming. But right now, I think that they will make a move. Now that you brought it up, Mark, I really think that after the break, and you're going to see these teams that are lying back really quiet, maybe second, maybe third, maybe even fourth, but in the standings by October, and you know what it's like, who's hot and who's not. And by October, I think you're right, the Jays will start meshing, and I think they're going to be right up there. Definitely wild card, no doubt about that, you know, but they could sneak up on the Yankees in that division, maybe the whole league. You know,
well, you talk about wild card spots, 3 of them in the AL, 3 of them in the NL, and in the American League, most of them, almost all of them, could potentially go to the AL East. Mm-hmm. You said nobody had the Jays on their radar. If that is true, then nobody, absolutely nobody, had the Tampa Bay Rays on their radar either. I mean, talk about a team that is literally playing with its hands tied behind its back. Tampa Bay, on paper, given the amount of adversity that it's had this season, has no business being 1.5 games out of first place in the AL East and in a wild card spot. But here we are. The Tampa Bay Rays this season has been anything but ordinary. They're displaced from Tropicana Field due to Hurricane Milton, and it turns out it's going to be a little bit too much to repair that thing. We're not going to do it. They're playing their entire season at the Yankees' spring training field, George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa.
My gosh.
And you know what? They're holding their own. They're 47-39 in the AL East. They are firmly in the wild card race, and that resilience is a huge story. They're known for not having a strong veteran presence, but rather just boosting off of young guys, and it's working for them. Drew Rasmussen has been a huge name for them on the pitching core, especially with Shane McClanahan sidelined due to injury, and the offense has really bounced back. Brandon Lowe, Josh Lowe, Jonathan Aranda, Junior Caminero is probably the team's MVP this year. The Rays' ability to develop and plug in young talent still remains one of the team's greatest strengths. Now, what happens beyond this year? Their stadium is in doubt. The ownership is facing financial scrutiny. There's questions about where they're going to play long term. There's questions about selling the team. There's questions about if this organization will still even be an organization, or they're going to be relocated to a Nashville, to a Portland, to a Memphis, anywhere but Tampa. It's a classic Rays story. Adversity, innovation, and being scrappy as you push towards October.
Well, Mark, also, but they do lead both leagues in one thing. You know what that is?
What's that?
Stadium sellouts. Okay, I've got a good buddy of mine, associate that works at the radio station down there, and he keeps up with them. He actually lives in Tampa Bay. And before this last 2 years, he was able to get a box seat at any time he wanted to and sent me footage. This year, it's a little bit more tough, so we'll see what happens.
We talked about the National League and talked about how it's the Dodgers to lose. Can anyone challenge Los Angeles for the NL pennant? Tracy, I think there's one team that could make a very strong push for it, and that's the 2025 Chicago Cubs. The Cubs have delivered one of their most compelling seasons in recent memory, opening the season with a 37-22 record. This is their best start since 2016, where, this is true, the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. They're sitting at 50-35. They're firmly in the playoff hunt, looking for that top spot in the NL Central, and their plus 107 run differential is the best in the MLB. This is a team that didn't even make the playoffs a year ago, but they made sweeping changes in the front office and with their coaching staff, and that appears to be the nucleus of this turnaround. It also helps when you have PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong. He's been massive for the Cubs this year, arguably their breakout star and a driving force behind the playoff push. He's hitting .270 with an .867 on-base percentage. He already has more than 20 home runs, 60 RBIs, and 23 stolen bases this season. He is one of the most valuable players in all of baseball, and fun fact, he's the first Cub to reach 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases faster than anyone in franchise history, and that includes Slammin' Sammy Sosa. A strong case for NL MVP this season. And I know it's tough whenever Shohei Ohtani is also in the mix. What are your thoughts on the Chicago Cubs?
Not so fast, my friend, because when the ivy's green, they're going to have to come up with some green to keep him there. I know that there's a little bit of contracts coming up, and right around the corner, well, we'll see. But yes, he is their MVP, but he's not making the money that everybody else is that's as tough and as playing as well as he is. So we'll see about that. If they can keep it together and throw him a little bit more green, yeah, I think they've got a chance. And sure enough, a lot of Cubby fans around here, but I know there's Brewers and there's Card fans too. And you know how tough it is to keep that hold. But anybody and everybody, whether you like the Cubs or not, that would be something to see them match up to the Dodgers and then maybe even going on to the World Series. We'll see.
Definitely a tough hill to climb, maybe a speed bump, maybe one of those giant, oversized, legendary Cece's Pizza speed bumps outside in Hot Springs. Hey, money talks, and that's a great segue heading into our next segment when we turn to the NBA. We're back in a moment. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, 92.9 KVRE.
Second quarter coming up.
And we're back. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, 92.9 at KVRE. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, something funny in the studio this afternoon.
Yeah, you started talking money. I'm like, I just got back from vacation. Don't talk money right now. Leave that up to the rest of the world right now.
Well, you know, our family had our big vacation. We really dropped quite a few dollars for spring break. We took the kids to Six Flags and really had a great time around Dallas. And, you know, much like I'm sure your family is, and probably some of the families right now, either coming back from vacation or planning their respective vacations, eventually there's going to be that dead period that we nobody talks about, but we know that we all go through it, where it's just like the financial recovery period where you have like 3 months where it's like, yeah, we're eating sandwiches.
Ramen noodles.
Yeah. You go all out and about, take all the cool photos, post everything on social media, and then for like months you're like,
oh gosh,
what kind of sandwich you guys want this time?
What's in the cupboard? No more bratwurst. Spam.
So there's a lot of big moves happening in the NBA right now. Of course, it's the offseason. The Oklahoma City Thunder are relishing as NBA champions. And of course, the biggest move that we've seen out of OKC this week is locking up their superstar. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, getting a $285 million extension, keeping him under contract through 2031. The core, alongside Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, looks like it's in place to stay for quite some time. Needless to say, the Thunder know they're the team to beat. They're doubling down. They've got SGA locked up. What is next? Well, what's next is all the other teams trying to take them down in the upcoming season. We talked a lot on last week's show, Tracy, about how Achilles injuries have really put the NBA as a whole into a nosedive. When you think about Tyrese Halliburton, you think about Jason Tatum for the Boston Celtics, and also for the Milwaukee Bucks, Damian Lillard going down with an ACL or an Achilles tear as well. Damian Lillard is in the news this week because he is now looking for a new basketball home. The Milwaukee Bucks just pulled off one of the most shocking moves of the offseason, waiving Lillard and using the cap space to sign, and this is true, Miles Turner, the former Indiana Pacer, to a 4-year, $107 million deal. Wow. This is a big deal for the East for many reasons. First, for the Bucks, Lillard tore his Achilles in the playoffs and was expected to miss most, if not all, of next season. Waiving and stretching his $113 million contract over 5 years frees up the cap space to sign a big man in Turner. What they're going to lose here is they lose Lillard's leadership, his clutch scoring ability. Even injured, waiving a future Hall of Famer is a seismic, earth-shattering move. We all knew that Giannis Antetokounmpo was a free agent, and we knew there were a lot of rumors. Could he be heading to San Antonio? Could he be heading to the Lakers? It's always the Lakers. They're always in discussion, right? But getting rid of Lillard, who was certainly the 2 to the 1-2 punch, is a bold move. Now, bringing in Miles Turner and a big man is really a move that's supposed to add some spice and some pizzazz, and ultimately supposed to wow Giannis over to encourage him to stay. This is a move from the Milwaukee front office that suggests they're not doubling down to try to get Giannis. They're quadrupling down to try to get the all-star, one of the top 5 players in the NBA, to stay put in small market Milwaukee. Is this enough to make him stay?
I don't think so. I'll be honest with you. I think that even though they've come close, in the last couple of years, it's simply because of him. And it's not that he's a one-man band, but obviously the time has come for him to join up with some real stars. And I'm not saying that he's not a real star, a couple of new ones, but the bottom line is he just doesn't have enough support. And you can see him starting to dwindle. His numbers start to dwindle at the end of the year, every year. And then he had this strained calf muscle. And then you have some other things coming up. It takes a toll on you when you're doing everything. You're leading scorer, leading rebounder, leading, everything. Got triple doubles out the kazoo. And you can see that every year. And now he's not a rookie anymore, Mark. He's getting a little older and a little older and a little older. And he needs a little bit more support. And I don't know if he's getting, don't get me wrong, everybody's wearing his jersey up in Smallsville. But if you're in L.A., you're in Dallas, you're in New York, you're wherever, you're getting a lot more money, not only from what you're playing for, but also what your jersey's selling for, what your tennis shoes are selling for. You think he's going to stay, Mark?
I do think that he's going to stay, but I think the move is going to throw a lot of things into disarray. Look, Damian Lillard is likely not going to play this season.
No, he's not.
We know that, and that's a huge blow for the Bucks. The Bucks they're all in. They're throwing everything in possible because they're stretching Lillard's contract. I believe it is the biggest contract buyout in NBA history, certainly in the past 30 years. They're going to be on tap for paying Lillard, I think, $23 million a season for the next 5 years for a young man that's not even going to be playing for them. Of course, now bringing in Miles Turner, who's been a defensive centerpiece for this Indiana Pacers franchise for the past decade, that just led their team to the NBA Finals and was 1 game away from winning the franchise's first championship. For Giannis, he's already won a ring. He could go somewhere else for money. The problem is that his younger brother Thanasis is also in the league and is also at Milwaukee. And I know it's very important for him to play beside his brother in the league. The only way to ensure that that happens and remains to happen is if he stays in Milwaukee. And there are some guys out there that it isn't always about the money. Those franchise cornerstone pieces, if it's me, I think Giannis wants to retire a Milwaukee Buck. That's the team that gave him a chance. That's the team that he found victory and success with. And he's really helped elevate this small market team into a perennial contender in the East. And the East is getting better. The New York Knicks were one stage away from the finals. Boston will heal from their injuries, and they will be back and a force to be reckoned with. Indiana just reached the NBA Finals. Now, as we talk about Indiana, I think that this move is an absolute gut punch for the Pacers because they're getting rid of Miles Turner. Look, they just reached the NBA Finals. They lost Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7. I mean, this was a team that was so close to crossing the finish line. And now you lost your big man. Now you lost your defensive anchor, your longest tenured player. You're not going to have Halliburton next season because he too is nursing and coming back from the Achilles injury. What's next for Indiana? Because the championship window, to me, looks like it just got slammed shut by no one else but Indiana's own front office. Why?
They did it to themselves. You're absolutely right. But then again, we got to look on the outer banks of the circle, though. Who can they acquire during the new acquisition coming up? Think about that.
There's only one name. There's only one name that's floating out there, and that's DeAndre Ayton.
Exactly. Okay, there you go. But you think he can fill in? I mean, Halliburton is just think he was the MVP. You're going to have to fill in. Now you got a big guy. I just think there's too many pieces of the puzzle there for them to even fill in. I really do. I mean,
Phoenix is a failed experiment. Phoenix is bleeding heavily. Obviously, Durant is gone. Ayton is going to be. There's no way he goes back to Phoenix. So he wants to go to a team that has a real shot of winning right now. Indiana may not be that team right now.
No.
Halliburton is out. Turner's gone. Of course, you would be replacing Turner coming in anyway, but Indiana does not look to be the guy. Does not look to be the team next year, not until Halliburton comes back. There's not enough free agent names roaming around, floating around that's going to make that an enticing pick.
And do they have the money?
Well,
that's another thing, Mark.
So it's a question. It depends.
Halliburton's not playing, but they still got to pay him.
So, here's the deal. Indiana has a reputation of always wanting to stay under the luxury tax. If you go over the cap, you have to pay luxury tax in the NBA. Indiana has always been very, very careful about its way of spending money to where it doesn't go into that red area. And I think that's what just cost him Miles Turner, because not paying your big man, and look, big man, the center position is right now in this era of the NBA is probably the most important piece on the floor for any championship team right now. Letting him walk because you weren't willing to pay that extra to keep him there. I mean, you guys are right there. Mm-hmm. You build around what you got. Halliburton's out. You need some help. You let Turner go. That sends the message that we may be one and done in terms of this championship race. And the East teams are only going to get stronger. We know the West is wild as ever. I think the Bucks are still going to be dangerous with Miles Turner, but I don't even know that adding Miles Turner makes me think, okay, well, the Pacers are going to be down. The Celtics are still recovering from injury. Are the Bucks the best team in the East right now with this acquisition? I think this, if anything, elevates teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers to that top spot.
There you go.
And it's so weird to say a franchise makes a move in an attempt to keep its star player, but doesn't actually move the needle forward for its championship hopes. But I believe that is exactly what we just saw.
Well, there's a possibility, but I'm going to tell you right now, if they don't post some more money up, and you know that as well as anybody, but then you're looking at the same problem over there with Cleveland also. They've got some guys right now that are borderline getting antsy because their contracts are up also. I think we're going to see a big change. And you said it at the very beginning of the series. We got so many teams coming up right now. And in the last, 7 years is what it was? We've had different titles?
It's a different NBA championship each year for the past 7 years.
I think we're going to see another one this year.
And that's probably Adam Silver's crowning achievement, although it has nothing to do with him.
What did you... We had a good segment going, Mark. We had a really good segment going, okay?
And I blew it.
Goodness gracious.
Blew it.
Go to the next one now.
All right. Well, we got to take things down a little bit as we head to our next segment. We'll tell you more when we come back. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, 92.9 KVRE.
Third quarter coming up.
Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, 92.9 KVRE. We're online at kvre.com and on iHeartRadio. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, sad news in the horse racing world this week. The loss of a legend, the end of an era. Mr. D. Wayne Lukas has passed away at age 89.
Yeah, coach, formerly everybody, that's what we called him on the backside and forever. And it's certainly a big loss, coming off of what he called, he just retired, literally just retired and knew that he had something going on. And he passed the torch, so to call it, to his assistant trainer. Had been with him, Bay had been with him 20 years, I think, or more. So he's in the rest of the team's in good hands, but you can never replace a D. Wayne Lukas. Coach is what I said. Everybody calls him. Formerly a basketball, coach up in Wisconsin, and truly missed. But people think of him in the thoroughbred world, but also quarter horse racing. It's where he got to start and winning several crowns in both of those different areas. And it's something that, golly, if you think of all his accolades, I mean, you've really got to go back all the different big stakes races he won, all the different thoroughbreds that he trained, and quarter horses too, by the way. So yes, formidable foe back in the 80s. I mean, his signature sunglasses that he always wore, everybody had to have a pair of those, or tried to anyway. His signature Ray-Bans and such, and aviators, was something special, that cowboy hat. And I just remember him so many times on the backside on his pony and getting out there, and then actually being on his pony up until the last days, and he just was one of those kind of guys. He was stern at his job, but you knew if you listened to him, you were going to learn something. And if you had him as a trainer, you knew you were going to win something. And it was just that way. And in the last couple of years, he actually went in some major stakes races. It was something that everybody in the racing division and the rest of the world too, if you followed the guy, you knew that this is something that, one of those deals, you can't replace him. He's right up there with the Van Bergs of the world, and the Woodies, Stevens, and Bob Holthus of era of Oaklawn fame, and just one of those deals, man, that he will be truly missed. And the guy was one of a kind too. I mean, he was just that simple.
No doubt about it. If there is a Mount Rushmore of horse trainers, D. Wayne Lukas is on it. I mean, it's the end of an era, the loss of a legend, but his legacy is woven into every corner of modern horse racing today. You mentioned the crowns. 15 Triple Crown race wins, including 4 Kentucky Derbies, 6 Preakness Stakes, and 5 Belmont Stakes. He's also the first trainer ever to surpass $100 million in earnings. I mean, he dominated the Breeders' Cup. He won 20 races, more than any other trainer in history. And he was a real game changer. He changed the game in ways that you think now are just mainstays in the industry, in the game. I mean, he pioneered the concept of what we call a national stable, where flying horses coast to coast across the country and competing year round. He had the nickname D. Wayne off the plane because he wasn't afraid to be innovative. He wasn't afraid to change the game by using relentless travel and success and really stretching the capability and ultimately growing the game across the country. Here in Hot Springs, we're blessed and maybe even a little bit spoiled to have Oaklawn in our backyard, but the other cities and the other states that don't really have that close connection to the horse racing world, I mean, D. Wayne Lukas helped bridge that gap for this country. And he also helped reshape how horses were bred, bought, and trained. And, when you talk about training, his training tree, so to speak, includes stars like Todd Pletcher, Dallas Stewart, and Brad Cox, who also rose up in the ranks under his mentorship as well. And of course, even in his final days, he's remained a fixture at the barn, waking up first thing in the morning and mentoring young horsemen. And his family shared that he passed peacefully, surrounded by loved ones, and asked for donations to causes close to his heart. He was very, very passionate about the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. But he was a young man at 89 that didn't just win races. He reshaped the culture of the sport, elevated its standards, and inspired generations.
Oh, no doubt. And so many, not only that, but horses he trained. Now there's big stakes races named after him, of them. Of course, the Ziri Stakes they have at Oaklawn, Thunder Gulch. So many of them. And that just keeps going on. Serena Song, and we could talk about some of the ones that he trained for years and years and years. But you're right. The culture around him just changed. And yes, it made it into a business, and very stern. I mean, several times he would make no bones about it. A lot of different jockeys would, they steered from riding for him sometimes because he would get. I mean, he was very stern at it, but they knew that if they got one of his mounts, that they had a chance every time. And you're right, first up, first down every day, and out on the track. I just recall so many times on the backside him getting up on that pony, and I was telling you the story about they had steps made for him. He just to get up there, and his ponies would never move. The bridle would just sit there and didn't have to be tossed or anything like that, tied up or nothing, would not move. Just that kind of a guy. I don't know if the pony was scared of him or not, but in all fun aside, but he was just that kind of guy. Business, very businesslike, but almost. On the other side, though, he was, a family man, too. He had the soft side to him also. I think he relaxed a little bit more later part of his life. And so many of the associates that I know on the backside, have got great stories about him, and everybody will. And he's just one of those guys. I've got a few but every time I got to be around him, especially at some banquets that we were at, always fun. Always had some great one-liners. He was really good at that. Very quiet spoken, but when he'd come up with a one-liner when everybody else sort of just messing around. And so, he will be missed, but also, like you said, the legacy that's unbelievable with the amount of talent that came out of his shed row. And that's something right there that he added to the sport that you can never take that away from him. So many people learned from him, and that right there in his legacy will follow suit forever.
The loss of a legend, D. Wayne Lukas, 89 years old. Tracy, let's switch gears. Big news coming out in the WNBA this week. Of course, the All-Star Game is right around the corner. That'll be taking place later on in July 19th. And of course, it'll be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana, the home of Caitlin Clark, who obviously plays for the Indiana Fever, will also co-captain one of the teams. All-Star voting was announced this week, and to no one's surprise, Caitlin Clark led all players with a record 1.29 million fan votes. Obviously, the honeymoon phase, the fan craze, it has no signs of slowing down at all. Paige Beckers is going to be another starter. Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Aaliyah Boston, so many other names. Of course, the All-Star Weekend begins July 18th with a three-point contest, a skills challenge, and maybe one of the most controversial pieces attached to this week is that Clark's player vote ranking. She ranked 9th among guards in the league, which sparked a little debate because how do you have 1.29 million fan votes, but you're ranked the 9th best guard in the game? Purists are calling it a snub despite her top fan and media rankings.
Well, once again, you have a lot of media interaction with that, and they don't give you the whole details on the total amount of votes. It's very behind the scenes, so to speak. And then you also have some folks out there that I think that are really just they're Caitlin Clark fans in front of people, but then behind the scenes they're sort of maybe talking out of the other corner of their mouth as it is. We all know that Caitlin Clark, she's one of the best out there, but she too has her ways, just like anybody. And one of her ways is winning, and sometimes it brushes somebody the wrong way. But as it is, I don't know. She leads the league, and what does she not lead it in, Mark? You're the stats guy, so how she could be ranked that I mean, that depth, I don't know, but we do know this. You've talked about this for the last couple of years. You're one of the premier guys on stats and stuff. She's the one that's getting the fans in the stands. And it's just that simple. I mean, she's made the game, as you well know, it's so much now that they've had to buy more TV time. They've had to buy more media. The media market is crazy. Her jerseys are going for unbelievable, I mean, at every level, not just in Indiana, all over the country. And to the fact now that, well, the WNBA has had some other teams. So, you know.
Yeah, so of course we'll talk about those other teams here as well. The WNBA announcing 3 new teams. Expansion is coming to the league. Detroit is going to get its first WNBA team since the Detroit Shock relocated in 2009. The new Detroit team, which is unnamed as of this show, will begin playing in 2029. Philadelphia going to get its first ever WNBA team as well, a city with deep basketball roots, set to debut in 2030. And those two will join Cleveland, which is also announced this week, and will begin play in 2028, bringing the league total to 18 teams by 2030. The expansion reflects the WNBA's surging popularity and growing investment in women's sports, and it's huge for the game. It's the Caitlin Clark effect, right? And of course, you mentioned Caitlin Clark. The Indiana Fever just won the WNBA's Commissioner Cup, taking down the top dogs, the Minnesota Lynx, 74-59 on Tuesday to win the in-season championship, and they did it with Clark, the reigning Rookie of the Year, sidelined for a third consecutive game due to a groin injury. Mm-hmm. Now, the Commissioner's Cup, the winner of the Commissioner's Cup, it's a $500,000 cash pool that's split evenly among the winning team there. But even without Caitlin Clark on the floor, the Indiana Fever is still finding ways to win, sitting at 500 right now this season with still plenty of time to go.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And Mark, you know what's next is obviously, and we got to bring this up sooner or later, it's all about money. And you know that as well as I do. You know, are they getting paid enough, you know, now that they're
The answer is no.
Yeah, well, there you go. Fine, you know, there you go. And so that's going to have to be a representation that's going to have to be brought up sooner or later, because now you're getting more TV revenue, you're getting more media response, and obviously they need some bigger contracts.
When we come back, it's time for our local roundup. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition continues in a moment on 92.9 KVRE.
Fourth quarter coming up.
And we're back, Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, 92.9 KVRE. The fourth quarter is here, and it's time for our local roundup, highlighting the best and brightest moments in the KVRE listening area this week. And we begin in our own backyard here in Hot Springs National Park. A big event happening on Thursday, Tracy. Arkansas's favorite arena football team, the Hot Springs Wise Guys, kicked off its inaugural Do More, Say Less kickball game out at Majestic Park. Tracy, this was fun for all ages. My kids had a blast getting to meet the players. The turnout was great. The weather couldn't have been more beautiful. It was the kind of moment that really felt like summer, you know?
Mm-hmm, no doubt. And you know what? Those guys are so likable.
They really are.
You know what I mean? They're just regular old guys, and the coaches are so, you can just, I mean, and working with the kids, that's something special right there. And you get the kids, you get the whole family. And that's just that simple. And I can't even imagine having a little bit of fun on out there. And I'm sure the kickballs were flying, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Signing autographs. Kids had a great time. I'm seeing more Wise Guys jerseys out and about with the local youth and everything. And mentioned how great this group of guys is. You know, at NPC, I this summer, I've been in the basketball gym a lot for a super top secret project I'll announce soon. But the Wise Guys players will just pop in and, you know, they want to work out, or they'll, you know, shoot some hoops or whatever, right. Just, you know, kind of in their off time there. And some of our NPC players are in there kind of, you know, just playing around, or some of our basketball teams getting ready and watching like our current basketball players interact with the Wise Guys players is really, really cool. And I'm in there, messing around with different things and working on my project. And, I'll overhear their conversations and, just sharing life experiences too, and sharing successes and stories of failures and, stories of bouncing back from those failures is really cool advice and just a really cool experience that not everybody gets the opportunity to see. Of course, with it being Independence Day weekend, speaking of fireworks, the Wise Guys were booming last Saturday night. They exacted revenge on the Ozarks Lunkers with a 57-48 road win. The guys are on a bye this week before traveling back to Missouri next weekend to take on the St. Joseph Goats. But if you are listening and you've been putting off seeing the Wise Guys this summer, there's 2 opportunities left. Hot Springs returns home Saturday, July 19th against the Goats, and the regular season finale at Bank OZK Arena July 25th against the Iowa Woo.
Yeah, no doubt. Get out and, the tickets are minimal, so get out and have fun. This is a family-orientated situation where everybody can go have some fun, get out there and watch some good football. There's not a bad seat in the house. Have a little bit of popcorn, soda pops, and just enjoy some arena football. It's right here in our backyard. Let's get her done.
Coming up July 11th, coming up on Friday at the Hot Springs Convention Center, it's the Hall of Fame induction banquet for one of Garland County's biggest legends in the sporting world. Coach Jamie Bridges of Lake Hamilton, the famed teacher and coach with the well-deserved honor, serving Lake Hamilton from 1988 to 2015. He coached junior high basketball, high school basketball, swimming, and tennis, and he had a storied career, Tracy. Accomplishments including 2 junior high basketball conference championships, 2 high school boys basketball state runner-up finishes, 1 tennis state runner-up finish, and 3 consecutive tennis state championships in Wolf Country. He was also the AAA's Girls Tennis Coach of the Year, and in 2019, Coach Bridges was also inducted into the inaugural class of the Lake Hamilton Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Coach Bridges. This is a big week not only for him and his family, but for the entire Lake Hamilton Wolf community as well.
And talking of him, just like we did of, Dwayne Lucas, what a great guy, though. Not only on all the courts that he was involved in, but off the court, too, involved in the community and doing such like that. You saw him at different events throughout the area, always giving his time, and a family man, too. No doubt that he was very loved in the community. But I got to see him at several events dealing with, whether the Jackson House or with something else, giving back, committed to, his community is one of the biggest things that I think that he also was involved in, and making an impact on all the young men and women that he coached throughout the years. Unbelievable legacy. One again will be carried on forever.
Congratulations once again, July 11th at the Hot Springs Convention Center. You'll see Coach Bridges enshrined into the Hall of Fame. Tracy, did you see this last week at Bank OZK Arena? It was the Spa City Classic Indoor Pickleball Championships. A record-setting 580 players were in attendance across 38 courts. I knew that you were on vacation, because if you weren't, I would probably expect to see your name out there.
No doubt I would have been there, right in the mix of it. Unfortunately, I was. And I had to, my team did well, but I had to have my substitute come in. But I'll be back in the next tournament. I promise you that. But unbelievable. Boy, I tell you what, the pool of players that were involved in that, crazy.
And it's not just Arkansas players as well. No. Guys coming in from all across the region, all across the country. Some big names and also some local names showing up on the leaderboards as well there. But once again, it's another big draw to Hot Springs right here in our backyard, and just another little, I don't want to call it a unicorn moment, but we've really made a name for ourselves, priding ourselves on being unique and really embracing all levels of the sporting world, whether it's arena football, and now we've got the Hot Springs baseball weekend, which is a main staple to see a bunch of legends here in the Spa City. Now pickleball.
Yeah, and you know what,
bright
Mark,
future.
and what I like about pickleball too, everybody can enjoy it. You know, they had the age ranges 7 to 34, 35, 49, 50, 54, 55, 59, 60, 64, and above that one. I've got one more year, and then even 70 and above. And one of the best players that I've seen in years, not only here but in the village around the area, he's 81 years old and still getting around the court pretty well. So not too bad. Not too bad at all.
One of the fastest growing sports as well.
Hey, what about that U.S. Open? The seniors. Padraig Harrington, not too bad, huh?
Yeah, huge legend there. Adds another trophy to the trophy case there. A storied career, huge legacy for Harrington.
The reason I brought that up was because he actually came to Hot Springs 4 years ago and was doing some instructions out here and was played around at Diamante, and so I had to bring that up. So not too bad. We got a lot of good things going on here local, though.
We do. Hey, on next week's show, we will begin our summer football preview. Don't miss it. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on 92.9 KVRE. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. We'll see you next week.
Game over.